Look at chapter 6, verse 12. He comes to a third type of immature and ungodly man, and that's the worthless man in chapter 6 of Proverbs, verse 12. It says, a worthless person, a wicked man, walks with a perverse mouth. You notice that all three of these qualities merge in this one verse. We saw the perverse talker and the wicked man. Now we see that he is worthless. A worthless person, a wicked man, walks with a perverse mouth. This type of man has no direction, this worthless man. He has no purpose in life. He has no goals, no plans. They're just wandering through life. And you know, when you wander through life looking for nothing, you usually find bad stuff. And he's just worthless. God says, avoid this type of man. Keep going to the 26th verse, same chapter, 6:26. Another character quality to be avoided in a person, and it's a sign of immaturity and ungodliness, is in verse 26. It says, for by means of a harlot a man's life is reduced to a crust of bread. That means he'll do anything to eat more of his lust. An adulteress will prey on his precious life. Can a man take fire into his bosom and his clothes not be burned? You know what this type of man is? He's lust-filled, driven by lust. Do you know how to tell that kind of person? Watch their eyes. In fact, you ought to do this at lunch. When you go out to lunch today, watch the people that you're eating lunch with, their eyes. No, you don't do it because I just told you all be looking at each other. But what I mean by that is, watch someone that doesn't know that you're watching them. A man. Sit with him at lunch. In fact, if there's someone you're really interested, take them out to lunch and watch their eyes. Now, I told Bonnie, I shouldn't tell you this story, but I'll tell you, I finally understand what some ladies feel. Because a friend of mine, their brother is getting rid of all of his stuff, and we're the same size, so they gave me some of his clothes. And one of them is some kind of a NASCAR or something shirt. It's really, really embroidered. It has more colors of embroidery, you know, it's cars and all this stuff. And the year. And I didn't think I wore it. And the first place I went, the first guy I saw, his eyes went boom! And he just started looking up and down my shirt like this, you know. And and he kept walking closer to me, trying to see the year on my shirt. So I kind of said hello and I walked away. Next guy, his eyes were just raking up and down, trying to read my shirt. Now, the book of Proverbs says that there is a type of man like that. What turns his head? If a man can't resist looking at a woman, married or not, he won't stop those wandering eyes, those wandering desires, and those unsatisfied longings. A lustful man chases anyone merely for the pleasure of the moment. And as the Puritans used to say, it doesn't just stay in the mind, because the wagons follow where the ruts are placed. And you get lustful ruts in your mind, your body will follow. And so God says that this type of man will only grow more lustful, more unsatisfied, and more ungodly. And God says, avoid that type of man. Look at chapter 7, verse 7. This concept continues. The 7th chapter talks about the harlotress woman. In verse 7 it says, I saw among the simple, I perceived among the youths, a young man devoid of understanding. The word devoid means empty. Again, it's a father. He's looking out and he's saying, hey, look down there. Do you see in that crowd of boys? There's an empty-hearted young man down there. He is devoid. He's empty. He doesn't have spiritual maturity. He is ungodly. He is immature. This is the person that has no substance, no depth, no long-term visible growth plan. There's no discipline in their life. They go to work just to get money, only to buy temporary things. Kind of like the person who wants to buy those $200 shoes, as if shoes would make the man. They only work to buy. And then they go and prowl the malls. They play the games. They watch the movies. They listen to the music. And they go to parties. And they waste their lives doing nothing of substance or worth. I remember when my 20-year-old son used to work at Chili's back in Tulsa. I remember one time he says, Dad, he said, you know what? At 1:20 in the morning when we're all done rolling the silverware at work and have it all ready for the next day's shift, he said, we go out the back door and all of us have in our pockets the $120, $150, $200 in tips we made. And he says, I would come home to sleep. But he says, most of those I worked with, the majority of my same age peers, would not have much money left when they came bleary-eyed into work the next morning at 11 o'clock because they spent it all in the bars and partying all night long. Now those were unsaved people, but a lot of believers are empty, and they just live for the moment, not for eternity.